Hi, everybody. Jack O'Malley with you here on this Wednesday. Hope you are well and hanging in there. Going to talk about a few things today that have been in the news and also come through the office, people's concerns. I will tell you this, and I'll remind you at the end of this. I will not be doing a video next week. I've got plans and things that are going to just make that hard to do, but I'll be back the following week. And I will tell you that the following week, I think it's Monday's the 16th, that week we are going to be in session a little bit, so I'll have some things to report on that as well. But just an FYI, no update next week unless conditions warrant. But the following week I'll be back. But here's today's update for you. Once again, how are you? Hope you're well. One of the big questions, and I've done some asking around, people a little more legally knowledgeable than I. And I understand. I have said from the beginning, I am not for vaccine mandates. Go back and watch last week's update. I'm not for vaccine updates. I think that's an individual's decision. That's why I voted for, not only in the House Oversight Committee, but then on the House floor, for the bill that would not allow the state to use COVID passports. All right? That bill, I believe, now is in the Senate. We got to get the Senate to move it on to the governor's desk and see what she does with it. But point is, I'm not for mandates. But here's the situation we find ourselves in. And COVID not only has been a health issue, it has put our society in some real issues here, because there are, many schools of how things should have been done, many thoughts, many concerns, and everybody's looking at it from their own personal angle. I get that. And again, so one of the questions that's been coming to me is, how can my place of employment, how can my school, university, mandate vaccines? I don't want that. That's not right. Well, I've done some checking. And again, remember, I'm not for mandates, but I've done some checking. And federal law and case law, meaning lawsuits that have been filed across the country and whatnot on these types of issues, say, yes, employers can do that. Yes, schools, universities can mandate those types of vaccines. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just trying to explain this to you. Here's the other part of this. A year ago, when the governor was acting unilaterally and saying, the state is telling you, you have to do this, we fought back. And a lot of the people who are watching this right now said, no, you're hurting small business. You can't do this. I agreed. So here we're in that predicament. People are saying, what can the state do about it? Not much. And do we want to be in that position? A year ago, we were saying the state, the governor, can't mandate what people do. And I agree with that. So here we are. And it's one of those discussions that needs to be had. Can it be had and figured out in the next 6 weeks or so? Probably not. But you have to understand, whether you like it or not, and I'm not particularly a fan of it, but where we're at right now is, do employers have the right to say, well, you got to be vaccinated? And the answer is yes. Do these universities have the right to say, you have to be vaccinated to go here? The law and, court decisions say yes, they do have that right. I might not like it. I might not agree with it. But there's a lot of laws I don't necessarily agree with, but that's where we're at. And I want you to understand that, because part of this isn't, please, I'm not advocating this. I'm just trying to explain this now. You don't have to work here. If I'm the boss, hey, you got to do this. Well, I don't want to do it. You don't have to work here. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just trying to say that's where we're at. And that's a tough situation we're looking at. So I just want to explain that, because a lot of people said, can they do this? Yeah, they can. And the other question then is, if you say, well, Jack, do something about it. All right. How do we do this? How does the nuance happen? A year ago, we were saying, keep your hands the heck off. Now here we're saying we want to put our hands on. It's a sticky situation. So that's where we're at. And I just wanted to bring that up and try to explain it to you. Now, I know somebody's going to call me a son of a son of a son because I don't do this. I get it. I'm just trying here to be the one to try and explain these nuances to you. Doesn't mean I agree with it. Doesn't mean that you agree with it. But that's where we're at. And you got to understand where you're at so you can move forward. So that's what I'm trying to do. All right. A couple other things. Again, some letters that have come into the office. The Michigan Department of Education has hired a brand new, never before, diversity and inclusion. Yeah, a new diversity, inclusion, and inclusion director. I'll get it right. And her pay is $130,000 a year. Now, here's something that, again, I'm trying to explain this to you. And I learned, when it's coming into the House of Representatives, you learn a lot. You come from the civilian ranks and you step in. And one of the things is I've looked to say, how do we fix our education system? And personally, if I could do something, I would probably do away with the Michigan school board. Do away with it. And I would have a superintendent who is chosen by the governor. Now, I know that depending on the governor, you may or may not like that. Problem is, right now, for the Department of Education, this is what I've learned. For the Department of Education, there is zero, really zero, maybe 2%. 2% accountability. Here's the deal. The members of the state school board are elected by the people. Yay! Problem is, they're 99% of the time from the southern third of the state. And the superintendent of schools, they're hired by that school board. Very little accountability. So there have been bills that says the superintendent needs to be chosen by the governor, and the school board members should be done regionally, kind of like a House of Representatives, but maybe bigger districts. Point is, now maybe we got somebody from the UP, somebody from Northwest, somebody from Northeast, somebody from Mid-Michigan, Southwest, Southeast, right? Now you've got a feel for what's going on across the state as opposed to this urban school board. Because that's what it really looks like for the most part. There's been a few exceptions over the decades, but not many. So here we are with the Department of Education that has minuscule accountability, hiring a new diversity and inclusion director for $130,000. You want to fix schools? We got to fix the Department of Education. So just keep that in mind as we move forward and as you have discussions. Once again, trying to give you my insight. Now, somebody could argue that I'm totally wrong, and there probably are some out there that would. But I just giving you my perspective. As I've always said, you can agree or disagree with me on something. I'm just telling you how I see it. And I want to explain that to you. So this diversity and inclusion director, that's a whole nother topic. But the Department of Education is one that I would love to see dismantled and rebuilt. Don't know if I'll be able to get to do it on my watch. Probably not. But something to think about is people are discussing education in the state and how we go. Don't always just think it's the budget. Don't just always think it's the House and the Senate that are doing this and the governor. This Department of Education is very interesting. Keep an eye on that. And remember, very little, if any, accountability from the state superintendent to the school board, state school board members. All right. And I also want to chat real quick on this. Democratic minority leader in the House, Representative Donna Lazinski, took a band of merry compatriots to Washington yesterday. I guess there was some kind of rally in support of House Resolution number 1, which is basically a nationalization of our election system. And Rep. Lazinski, well, I won't get into personalities here, Rep. Lazinski said, "I will not rest. My colleagues in Michigan will not rest. We will stand with all of you in the state legislatures against violence, harassment, and intimidation that's being used to take away our right to vote." Representative Lazinski, what the hell are you talking about? Seriously. You know, we're talking about, you want to talk about nationalizing our elections. You're a state representative. You're supposed to represent this state. And if I remember right, this country still is supposed to have states' rights. You should be defending Michigan and talking about Michigan, but you're not. So you call yourself a leader, but you're not representing the state of Michigan. That's all I got to say about that, because if I'm not careful, I'll get into bigger trouble. So she's entitled to say what she says, but I am entitled to disagree with her 100%. All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to not be here next week. Scheduling and whatnot won't really allow it, but I'll be back the week after. A lot to talk about there and think about, again, with the vaccines and the schools and the jobs. It's something else to think about. I know you might not agree with that, but that's where we're at. And you got to understand where you're at before you move forward. So just keep that in mind. All right. So I'm out of here for tonight. Take care.